Hey, what's up, guys? This is Fred here, and today we're going to talk about some of the basics for NCAA penalty enforcement. So let's hop right to it. So, any discussion on college penalty enforcement is going to entail the concept of the 3-in-1 principle. And this is right out of the rule book, it's in the definitions section. And if you go and dig into that, it's going to speak to going to look at Rule 10.2.2. So, you got to love our rule book. It starts in one section and it points you to the next section. So let's go and hop and look at that section right there. And if you look at this stuff, it talks about a team in possession committing a foul behind the basic spot. So here we are, we're already starting to use terms that we don't readily understand or that are not readily intuitive. It speaks about the spot of the foul. I think we all get that. But once again, we're talking about a team in possession committing a foul beyond or behind the basic spot. So we need to figure out what a basic spot is. And then it talks about the team not in possession committing a foul behind or beyond the basic spot. So this is kind of how our rule book presents penalty enforcement to you. It says, here you go. This is the 3-in-1 principle. Have at it. And I think if you were to just use this without any prior knowledge or experience or have a phone a friend, it would be very difficult to, crank out some penalty enforcement. And that's where I really want to start to unpack this thing and bring you a tool, provide you something that you can use so that'll make this whole thing a whole lot easier. So I think it's so important in what we do is that we create our own playbook. We start to visualize plays that happen on the football field in our mind. And we can start by doing that by creating graphics, depictions. You can draw stuff. And the way I'm going to break this down is I'm going to provide these visuals. I'm going to give you an image of what I see in a football play. And it'll maybe help spark something and trigger your own ability to visualize something. Because if you can't visualize a rule question, if you can't visualize how somebody reports a penalty to you, because you may not see the play, you may be looking elsewhere on the football field, you're going to have a really hard time coming up with the proper enforcement. So I know some of us are horizontal visual, depictors, and others are vertical. They view the football field top to bottom like this. So we'll try to unpack two examples or multiple examples that dig into these different concepts. When we start to apply the 3-in-1 principle, it's really critical that we understand that there's really 4 types of play intervals or segments during a down. And these will kind of lead you in the direction of using hoppers, buckets or bins in which to place these fouls as they occur so that you can get to the right penalty enforcement. So we have a free kick play, we have a scrimmage kick play, we have run plays, and we have pass plays. And the big takeaway here is that during a single down of football, say, at kickoff or first down, we all understand the concepts of downs, that multiple segments of a play can occur. And that may not make sense to you right off the bat, but we're going to unpack that a little bit. And I think if we, paint some pictures, it'll become a little more intuitive. So here we go. We got some X's and O's on a football field. We've got everybody lined up for a kickoff from the 35-yard line. We've seen this 1,000 times. So we have the kickers on the left, and they're going to kick the football, and they're going to go to the receiving team, B, on the right. So we start to roll this thing through, and we have a free kick, and I've dotted that with the ball flying through the air, and it gets caught by a receiving team player. So understand that from the time the ball is kicked, toe meets leather, while it's up in the air, sailing through the air, whether it's bouncing on the ground, until it goes out of bounds, it's dead by rule, hits the ground untouched in the end zone, or it's recovered by the receiving team, we are in the kick segment of that down. Now, once it is caught by the receiving team, recovered, possessed, we start a running play. So now we're just going to the running play segment of this down of football. So now our running play rules will apply. And this is what I want you to kind of understand. So we have some sort of return, and that creates our running play segment of this down. He gets tackled, the down is over. So let's try and simplify things, because that's how I like to really get into this kind of thing. Is let's strip away all the extraneous information that's not useful, and just visualize, picture, come up with a concept that we can easily digest. And that's, okay, we have a kickoff, the ball is sailing through the air, it's caught, and it's returned to the 30-yard line. This is our down of football on, probably what is going to be the opening kickoff of most of the games this season. So let's start adding in some fouls to this and see where it takes us. So here we have a rules question. We have A, free kick at the A35. The kicker kicks the ball, and it's caught by receiver B40 at the 5-yard line and returned to the B30, where he's tackled. During the kick, B22 commits a blindside block with targeting at the B48. So I think it's so important that we're able to read this, digest this, and create some sort of image in our head of what this play looks like. Because if we can't do that, then we can't figure out which hopper or bin or how to enforce this penalty. So let's go back to our diagram. Let's look at our free kick down that we had here. So we had our kickoff and we had a run. So we've illustrated this. Now let's add in that foul. So there's our blindside block with targeting committed by the X player, B. B committed that at the B48. So we got our flag down at that yard line. We got that spot. So let's understand a crucial piece of language that was in that rules question, and that is Team B fouls during the kick. So this is during the kick play interval, during the segment of the down where the ball was sailing through the air. So that leads us into kick play enforcement, free kick play enforcement to be specific. And we need to use our hopper or our bin that drives us into enforcing fouls during the kick. So we need to understand that when Team B commits a foul during the kick, it is enforced at the previous spot. It's also the basic spot. It's the reference point for a Team B foul during the kick. But I want you guys to start attaching Team B fouls during the kick. During the kick, so while the ball is in the air, before it's caught and possessed. That's so crucial, so important. That penalty is enforced at the previous spot with 2 exceptions. And those exceptions are an illegal wedge and blocking after giving a fair catch signal. Those are enforced 3 and 1 and at the spot of the foul, respectively. Those are your only 2 exceptions for B fouls during a kick play. So let's look at another example. Here we have our same kickoff deal, free kick at the 35. We got our kicker, he kicks the ball, and it's caught by receiver B40 at the 5. Okay, we got that. Return to the 30, all good. Now, during the return, very crucial piece of information again, B22 holds A88 at the B23. So we want to take a second. We want to see a return in our mind. Picture that receiver returning the football. He runs to the 30-yard line. He's tackled there. All right, we got a whistle, but we see a flag down at the 23-yard line, the B23-yard line, and we know that's during the return. So let's paint a picture here. So we have our setup again. We have our kick sailing through the air. We have our return to the 30-yard line, and let's add in our foul. So there we go. We have this thing diagram laid out for us. So we have our foul at the 23-yard line, and now we know that this was during the return. So this is in our run play interval of this down. It's in the segment of this down of football that is associated with running play rules. So we need to dig into our rule book and look at what are the basic spots, what are the reference points, and that's another way of just using that perhaps unintuitive term, basic spot, and converting it into something a little more digestible, something that we better understand. A basic spot is just a reference point. Every segment of down of football has a reference point. So we have a Team B foul during the return, and we need to figure out what our reference point is in order to compare where the flag is and where to enforce it. So during a run play that has no neutral zone, so a kickoff return has no neutral zone during a run play, our reference point, or our basic spot, is the end of the return. So now we're going to compare that spot to the spot of the foul. And this goes back to the language of, okay, the team in possession. The team in possession commits a foul behind the basic spot. So we often don't use team in possession in our normal common vernacular. We use things like return team or kicking team, offense, defense, passing team, intercepting team, fumbling team, recovering team. Those are our basic terms that we use in everyday life communicating football. We don't use, well, the team in possession committed this foul. No, so we use things that make sense to us. So let's break down that first part of the 3-and-1 principle. The team in possession, the receiving team, Team B in this case, committed a foul during the return, during a run play. So we know the end of the run is our reference point. That's our basic spot. And we have a foul by that team in possession, behind that point. So by our 3-and-1 principle, we're going to hit them where it hurts them most. So the team in possession doesn't get anything beyond where they made a foul. So we need to enforce this from the spot of the foul, because that's the worst of the two points on the screen there. Now, let's imagine that Team B fouled during the return again, but now beyond the basic spot, beyond the reference point. Now this one, we're going to do the same thing. We got a foul by the team in possession. We're going to hit them where it hurts them most, and it's not going to be the spot of the foul in this case. It's going to be the end of the run, because that's the most. That's how you penalize them the worst. So understand that when we read our rules questions and we see fouls during the return, we need to start thinking, okay, this is in our run play hopper. This goes into the run play segment on the down, and now we need to compare our basic spot, our reference point, to the spot of the flag, and then we go from there. So now that we've kind of unpacked kick plays a little bit, let's dive into the other kick play, the scrimmage kick plays. So once again, we have a diagram up on the screen, and we have our team A on the left, team B on the right, and this is just how I visualize things in my mind. Everything's always going left to right. A is marching left to right into B's end zone, and we're gonna let just a basic scrimmage kick punt play unfold here. So we have a punt. It sails through the air. It's caught by the receiving team. Now it turns into a running play. He makes a return, and then he gets tackled. Pretty basic, simple punt play. We've seen it 1,000 times. Now let's strip away all the extra information that we don't need and start to add in some fouls. Now, once again, we're going to start with some a rules question, because that's how, we need to start turning these words into images in our mind, and then we use those images to process the fouls. So here we are. We got 4th and 6 at the A40. We got a punt. The kick is caught at the B18 and returned to the B34. So during the kick, critical piece of information, B23 is flagged for holding at the B30. So we got some pieces of information out there. We got a kick from the 40, caught at the 18, returned to the 34. We got a hold at the 30. All those things are critical, and we need to start to unpack them, visualize them, picture them in our mind. We'll do that on the screen. So we got our punt laid out here. So the punt portion of this down, the scrimmage kick play interval or segment, is from the snap and while the ball is kicked in the air until it becomes dead by rule or possessed. So in this case, it was possessed by the receiving team. And then once it's possessed, our scrimmage kick play interval, that segment of this down, is over. And now we're into a run play interval. And that's where our running play rules come into effect. So let's add in the foul from our question that we just read. So we have, during the kick, Team B held at the B30. So we have our end of the kick at the B18. We have our foul at the 30. And we need to start to dig into our hopper or our bucket our enforcement for fouls during the kick. Now, this is a Team B foul during a scrimmage kick, during a punt play specifically. And this one happens to check all the boxes for post-scrimmage kick enforcement. So the kick crossed the neutral zone. B is next to put the ball in play. The foul happened during the kick, and it's not during a try or an extra period. So check, 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 check. We meet all the criteria for post-scrimmage kick enforcement. So we can dig into PSK enforcement. So when we have PSK enforcement, we know that our basic spot, our reference point for fouls during the kick, is the end of the kick. That's why our back judges beanbag the end of that kick. And that's what we're comparing at this point. So we're taking Team B, we're treating them as the team in possession. So we're treating them sort of like the offense. They're the return team. And we're going to compare the spot where they fouled to the end of the kick. And since it's the team in possession, we're going to hit them where it hurts them most. And that's going to be the end of the kick, because that is behind where the foul was. So we're going to go half the distance from the 18 to the 9-yard line, because you can't enforce a 10-yard penalty from the 18-yard line. So that's what we're comparing on a foul that occurs during the kick by the receiving team. Now, let's look at very similar situation. So we have our punt play. It's caught at the 18. It's returned to the 34. Now, during the return, B23 is flagged for holding at the 25-yard line. So let's take a look at that. So we got our marker on the field, and we understand that this is during the return. So this is during a running play, so to speak, the running play segment of this down. So we want to use our run play hopper, our run play rules to enforce this penalty. So Team B fouls during the return, and we know our reference point, or our basic spot, with a run that has no neutral zone, so a kick return has no neutral zone. Our reference point is the end of the run. And we're going to compare that spot to the spot of the foul, and this is a foul by the team in possession. So we're going to, once again, enforce this at the spot of the foul, the 25-yard line, and we can go the full 10 here because it's not more than half the distance. So let's look at the converse to this for a foul during this type of play, a foul by the team that kicked the ball. So Team A fouls during the kick. Say they commit a foul for illegal formation, or there's a holding penalty a holding flag at the line of scrimmage, or a face mask at the line of scrimmage. So we have Team A, they foul during the kick. So while the ball is snapped to the punter, in that interval from the time he kicks it until it's dead by rule or possessed. So during that segment of the down, Team A fouls. So we know that when Team A commits a foul during a kick play, the enforcement options are the previous spot, or if B has the football, B has the option of enforcing it from the subsequent dead ball spot if it belongs to Team B. The only exception to this is KCI. That's going to be a spot foul always. And if this foul occurs in the end zone, it's a safety by penalty. So we know that A fouls during the kick at B's option can be enforced either at the previous spot or the next spot that belongs to B. So when we see a Team A foul during the kick, we need to visualize this, and then we need to start going down the proper bucket, proper hopper, to get us to this point right here. A fouls during the kick, take us down the path towards, all right, all the criteria is met, we're checking all the boxes, B's next to put the ball in play, it's not KCI, so we can crank this out at the previous spot or the next B spot. Now I want to move on to plays from scrimmage. And I've flipped the field here because I understand that some of you guys visualize things a little differently. And this is just, how I've depicted things. And it's very important that you come up with your own mental images, your own way of visualizing this thing. It doesn't quite work because I've studied this a little bit to steal somebody else's images. Your brain works, uniquely to the way it's been, developed. So you need to come up with your own pictures and images in your mind, and it helps to draw them out. So let's dig into some pass plays and subsequent runs that occur after the pass. So understand I have a pass play diagram here. So the quarterback drops back, takes the shotgun snap, and he throws it out 10, 15 yards downfield. It's caught in the flat. And once that pass is completed, it now just turns into a run play. And then he gets tackled and the down is over. So during this down of football, we had two segments. We had our pass play and then we had our run play. So let's start sprinkling in some fouls and see how this thing works out. So we got 4th and 12 at the A18. So 4th down, we're at the 18-yard line going out. A10 completes a pass to A80 for a gain to the A49, just short of midfield. B99 has illegal hands to the face of an opponent at the line of scrimmage before the pass is thrown. So let's simplify things in our mind. So we read that rule question. We've created our visual. We see that we have two intervals, two segments during this down. We have a pass play and a run play, and understand that the pass play starts from the time the ball is snapped, and then it's thrown, and that pass play segment exists until that pass is incomplete, caught, or intercepted. Once one of those three things happens, the pass play portion is over, and then you move on to the next segment of the down if there is one. In this case, there was one. It was a running play. So when we have fouls during these different segments, we need to apply the proper penalty enforcement associated with each of those segments, or as you go down and apply certain hoppers or buckets to them. So back to our rules question. We have a foul by B during the pass for illegal hands to the face. So imagine a defensive end or a defensive back committing a prolonged pin back to the face mask of an offensive player or some sort of forcible blow. Now, we have this listed as B fouls prior to the pass. So that's meant to mean during the pass play portion of this down. So for pass play enforcement, our reference point is the previous spot. That's what we're comparing our foul position to our basic spot. So the previous spot for pass play enforcement is our reference point, our basic spot. Now, when it comes to personal fouls, we start to run into an exception, and they've actually modified this exception for 2022. And it's that if Team B commits a personal foul during the pass play, it can be enforced at the end of the last run when it ends beyond the neutral zone and there's no change of possession during the down. That's a very important piece of information. So no change of possession during the down. We can tack on B personal foul and unsportsmanlike conduct fouls to the end of the last run when it ends beyond the neutral zone. So in this case, Team B committed a foul during the pass, but we can actually apply it, enforce that penalty, add it on to the end of the run based on this exception. So this is an exception to the 3-and-1. Now let's look at a Team A foul during or prior to the pass. So imagine a offensive tackle commits a takedown hold against a defensive player. So Team A fouls prior to the pass. So pass play enforcement, we know our reference point is the previous spot, and we're going to once again compare the location of our flag to our reference point, our basic spot. And like we did on kick plays, we want to hit them where it hurts them most, except we have another exception to the 3-and-1, and this one is when Team A commits a foul for holding, illegal use of hands, illegal blocks, and personal fouls behind the neutral zone, it gets enforced at the previous spot. So this is an exception to what I was talking about earlier, hit them where it hurts them most. In this case, we're just going to go back to the previous spot and enforce it from there. Now, once again, if one of those fouls occurs in the end zone, we'll enforce it from the spot of the foul, and it'll be a safety. So we've been talking about fouls prior to or during the pass play portion. But understand that we could also have a foul after the catch and during the run. So imagine our receiver caught the ball and he's striding downfield, and then his buddy jerks and spins around a defender, commits a holding foul. So now we have a foul during a run play. We need to use our run play enforcement. And we know the end of the run is our reference point. That's our basic spot. So we're comparing that spot to the spot of the foul. And this is a foul by the offense, foul by the team in possession. So we're going to do whatever is worse. And in this case, it's going to be the spot of the flag. So we're going to give them everything they got up until they started committing a penalty, a foul, and then march back from there. So this one is enforced from the spot of the foul. All right, let's move on to something that we've been seeing a lot of lately, and it's the rule change associated with defensive holding. So here we have 3rd and 15 at the A18, so very similar play type situation. Team A attempts a screen pass to A30, who is held at the A17. A12 decides not to throw the pass to A30, and then he takes off running and he gets tackled all the way at the A32. So if you want to think about this, it was 3rd and 15, lined against the A33. He got to the 32. He's 1 yard short of first down. Result of play is a run short of the line of gain. It would be 4th down, but we got to figure out how to enforce this penalty. So first thing we do is we need to picture this play. Come up with some sort of image in our mind that makes sense to us. And it doesn't have to be cartoon graphics like this. It could be pictures of actual football that you've seen on TV that you've constructed in your mind. So in this play, we had our quarterback take the snap, and he's looking to pass, but he never does. So because he never throws the ball, we don't have a pass play. We don't have a pass play segment or interval during this down. We just have one play. One play during this down, and it's a run play. So the whole thing is a run play. So we're going to add in our foul. We have defensive holding, so that the guy grabs the receiver off the line of scrimmage and won't let him go. Clear and obvious foul. And this is a foul by the team not in possession. So this is a foul by the defense. And it occurred during a running play. So we're going to use our run play enforcement. So we need to figure out what our reference point is. Our basic spot is the end of the run. And we're going to compare our foul to our reference point. But in this case, it's a foul by the team not in possession. So when the team not in possession, the defense in this case, commits a foul during a run play, it's going to be added on to the end of the run if the run ends beyond the neutral zone. In this case, it did. So we would go from the 32 to the 42, and now it would be an automatic first down. So lastly, I want to cover a quick DPI enforcement and how we need to leverage our spot 15 and 2 concept in order to enforce a DPI penalty correctly. So we have our rules question up there on the right, and we have our diagram right next to it. So we're snapping from the 17. It's in the middle of the field. I have position 1 through 5 listed there for you in the top right corner. And that's something we officials use to keep track of the position of the football. So 3 being the middle of the field, 5 being the far hash marks, 1 being press box side, and then 2 and 4 split the difference, is lined up with the uprights adjacent to number 3. So understand that we have terms that align us on the football field. Now, we look at our question. The quarterback drops back, and he throws a pass that's incomplete. So we just have one play type during this down, a pass play, no run play. But we have a couple fouls. We have pass interference at the 24-yard line, or in a separate play, we could have pass interference all the way up the hash marks near position 1 at the A45. So we've laid out that that visual for you guys, and then we want to start to work through enforcement. So when it comes to DPI, we're going to take the football and we're going to start marching, and whichever comes first, the spot of the foul, 15 yards, excuse me, or the B2, spot 15-2. Whichever one comes first, we're going to stop there and put the ball down. Now, when it's a spot foul, like it is in example A, we're going to go directly to that spot, and that spot is going to include the lateral position of the football. So even though we start in the middle of the field, when we go to the spot of the foul, we're going to go out to the spot of the foul and then bring it into the hash mark. And we're going to place the ball right there. So because it was less than 15 yards in example A, it's a spot foul to include the lateral position on the field. Now, in example B, we're going to start marching, and we are going to realize that it's more than 15 yards downfield. And when it's more than 15 yards downfield, we're going to march from the previous spot. We're going to go our 15 yards and put the ball down right there in the middle of the field. So even though it occurred way out there, outside the hash, near the sideline, a 15-yard DPI penalty is enforced from the previous spot to include where the football lies laterally on the field. So that was a quick overview of some collegiate penalty enforcement. And the big concept that I want you guys to walk away with here is that during a down, there can be more than one play. And you need to understand which play type you're in, because the play type is going to dictate your bucket or your hopper for penalty enforcement and how you go about enforcing something with the 3-and-1 principle. So I hope that helped you guys. And if you have any questions, leave a comment or reach out to me. Thank you.